Cuba, the largest island in the Caribbean, less than 100 miles from the U.S. But for most Americans, Cuba has been off limits for over 50 years. Even with the recently announced lifting of some restrictions, there are rules and regulations that affect Americans who want to visit this beautiful jewel in the Caribbean. Viva Cuba! International Expeditions offers an immersive experience in Cuba. As well as discovering the wildlife and natural history of the island, travelers meet artists, musicians, farmers, and teachers. It's a rare opportunity to visit a country that is on the verge of change. Cuban history and culture comes to life in cities like Santa Clara and Cienfuegos. In Santa Clara, you can visit the memorial to Che Guevara, who was honored throughout the island nation as one of the founders of modern Cuba. Cienfuegos is called the Pearl of the South. Originally settled by French colonists from Louisiana and Bordeaux, the town center is a UNESCO heritage site. Farther to the east is the town of Trinidad, also recognized by UNESCO. Founded in 1514, it's one of the oldest cities in the Western Hemisphere. The Plaza Mayor has many examples of early Spanish colonial architecture. You might also have a chance to visit a pottery center and watch the artisans at work. In the Escambray mountain range, you'll travel 2,600 feet above sea level to Topos de Calantes. Here you can try some of Cuba's best coffee, grown high in the shaded hills.
You have to stir the beans for 20 minutes.
Most of the coffee from here is sold at a premium to Japan.
Delicious. Something like that. Cheers.
The whole mountain area is a national park. There's a great opportunity for some bird watching and an excellent chance that you'll see the Cuban trogon, the national bird of Cuba, as its colors mimic the blue, white, and red of the Cuban flag.
He's really tall.
Heading west to the huge Zapata Nature Reserve, there's a visit with a local farmer and naturalist who knows the best places to find the bee hummingbird, the smallest bird in the world. Along the way, there are also Cuban parrots, cuckoo birds, and screech owls. In Playa Larga, have a swim in the Bay of Pigs and enjoy dinner and music at a local paladar or private restaurant. Paladars used to be illegal in Cuba, but as the government relaxes its grip, International Expeditions helps reveal a country and an economy that is changing rapidly. Vinales is a beautiful valley surrounded by limestone hills, or mogotes. Another UNESCO site, there's a heritage center and a spectacular cave system to explore. You enter the cave on foot, but leave on a small boat through an underground waterway. Organic farming is becoming increasingally popular in Cuba.
Different kinds of guavas. There are varieties of mangoes. We have some types.
Marañón.
We have a marañón. How do you say marañón?
Cashew nut.
Yeah, cashew nut.
There's not a lot of mechanization on farms, and the cost of imported fertilizer and chemicals is high. Family-run farm restaurants feature plenty of homegrown dishes. From the Hotel Villa Siroa, you can walk to the Orchid Park right next door. There are more than 20,000 plants here, as well as 700 orchid species. In the hills near Havana is Las Terrazas, a small village built in the 70s to combat years of erosion in the hillsides. There's an opportunity to visit a school and learn about the Cuban education system. Or visit with an artist who makes all his own recycled paper. No trip to Cuba would be complete without learning more about the country's iconic cigars. A visit to a tobacco farm shows the whole process.
To make the Cohiba cigar, it takes about 2 years, the fermentation process.
Wow.
From growing, drying, and rolling the leaves into cigars. U.S. citizens can now take home limited quantities of these world-famous cigars.
Wow.
Look at this.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's a great.
Muy bueno. Now that's a cigar. Ernest Hemingway loved Cuba and lived on and off in his house, Finca Vigia, between 1941 and 1959. Looking into his rooms, it feels like he's just stepped away for a minute. Hemingway was an avid sport fisherman, and his boat Pilar is also on display. Throughout Cuba, you'll still see lots of old American cars. After the embargo, Cubans became very resourceful at keeping these old classics running. Some of the cars look like they're on their last legs, but the owners of the cars in Havana take great pride in keeping their cars spotless. The Malecon, along the Havana waterfront, is a great place for a vintage car ride. Havana is a city stuck in time. Founded in 1515, it was the target of many pirate raids for hundreds of years. There were forts built on both sides of the harbor to protect Havana from attack. Many of the buildings in Old Havana date back to the 1700s, including the Havana Cathedral, which was started in 1748. There's a lot of restoration underway in Cuba, as Havana will celebrate its 500th anniversary in 2015. A night out in Havana and a chance to see a few of the surviving members of the Buena Vista Social Club, who still perform with younger musicians and dancers to put on a show based around the music of Havana in the 40s and 50s. The dancers and musicians are superb. International Expeditions has been traveling to Cuba for the last 4 years under license with the U.S. Treasury Department. IE carefully selects its itineraries to provide the best combination of culture, history, and personal connections. IE trips include a Cuban national guide as well as one of IE's experienced Spanish-speaking guides. If travel restrictions are completely lifted, Cuba will change and lose a lot of its current charm. There's no better time to visit Cuba.